So what I'm going to do is I'll go over the Fight Combat workout in its entirety of what the workout actually is, and then we'll break down each individual move. I'll give you the actual movement standards and then the scaling options for each movement as well. So the first movement that's in the first of the 5 movements is the wall ball. Okay, so the wall ball will be performed over here. We have different heights, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit. But from wall ball, you rotate over here to the sumo deadlift high pull. It's a long sounding name for the movement, and I'll explain why in just a second. From sumo deadlift high pull, you'll rotate to box jump. The standard height for the box jump is 20 inches, and that's scalable as well. After the box jump, we rotate to the row, which is a fairly standard movement. Not a lot of scaling here, but you can just row slower, which is mainly the scale there. And then from the row, you'll rotate finally to the 5th movement, which is the push press, which will be done from the rack. And for the workout itself, it's 5 different movements like I just explained. We'll spend 1 minute at each station and then rotate after that minute. The clock continues to run, so the total time for the entire 5 movements is obviously 5 minutes. And we're going for reps on each movement with the exception of the row, which we're going for calories. So obviously the longer you take rotating between each movement, the less reps you'll likely get at that next exercise. First movement I'm going to go over is called the wall ball. The standard weight for the men is a 20-pound medicine ball, and for the women it's 14 pounds. The standard height that you have to launch this medicine ball is 10 feet for men and 9 feet for women, and all of that stuff is scalable. So the prescribed weight is 20 and 14, and the prescribed heights are 10 and 9 feet. So the wall ball starts, you're going to start about an arm-inch distance away from the wall. You want the ball, both hands in, elbows underneath, and I sort of use my chin just to kind of give it 3 points of contact. Okay, your feet are going to be just outside your shoulders. The movement starts standing, and then you're going to squat all the way down, and then launch the ball up. Okay, the ball's going to come back down, catch it high, let it push you back down into the squat, and then launch it again. Then a few reps in a row. Keeping the ball up in front of you is going to make the movement a lot more efficient, and you want to launch the ball in as much of a straight line as you can. As far as the squatting goes, you want to make sure that you send the hips back, the hip drops below the knee joint before you launch again. Anything shallow would be considered a no rep. If you feel like you're going to have a little bit of a problem with your squat depth, we can grab a second medicine ball. You can actually squat down to that. That's how we know once we hit that ball, we know we've gone deep enough. Okay, the next movement we're going to go over is called the sumo deadlift high pull. It's basically 2 movements in one. It's a sumo deadlift followed by a high pull. And I'll show you what that means. I'll break it down into 2 separate movements, and then I'll combine them for one solid fluid movement. Okay. So for sumo deadlift, whenever you hear sumo deadlift, the sumo part means your feet are going to be outside your shoulders. Versus a conventional deadlift where your feet are underneath your hips and you're deadlifting like so. A sumo deadlift, you'll be feet outside and your arms will be inside. Okay. So the distance your feet can can vary from person to person, but you want it to be relatively wide. Your hands are going to be inside your knees. Reach down and grab the bar. Okay, maybe about a fist distance between your hands. Bar's going to be in contact with your shins. Your butt's going to be down. Your chest is going to be up. What I look for in this movement is a nice flat back. Okay, so let me break this movement down into the 2 parts. The first part will be the sumo deadlift, where you're basically just deadlifting up to here. Okay. And then the second part is the high pull, where you'll be lifting the bar up to just under your chin. Elbows are going to be high. Okay? Back down, and then back down to the floor. That'd be considered 1 rep. So again, sumo deadlift, and then a high pull, back down, and down. So if I combine this into one fluid movement, I'll be sumo deadlifting up, all the way up to my chin. 2 in a row. Like so, okay? That's the standard movement. As far as complexities go, that's about as complex of a movement that we have in this workout. And you can obviously see the distance that the bar travels is pretty far compared to the other movements in the workout as well. So given that, there's a lot of scalability to this exercise. Number 1 is weight. Standard weight for men is 75 pounds. Standard weight for women is 55 pounds. That's obviously scalable. If this movement's completely new to you, what we can do is limit the distance that you actually have to lift the bar off the ground. And how we do that is we'll lift the bar off the ground with plates. So it shortens the distance that you actually have to pull. Okay, so instead of having my hips really low, if the bar was actually resting on the ground, I don't have to go quite as low, and it shortens my range of motion just a little bit. And we can obviously raise the bar off the ground even further if we had to. So those are the scaling options for that movement. It's something to consider if you're new to the movement, and as you practice it before the actual baseline, you can modify it that way. Okay, the next series in the workout is going to be the box jump. The standard height is going to be the same for men and women. It's 20 inches, and that's obviously scalable as well. The boxes we have, we could scale them starting at 8 inches, 12 inches, 16 inches, and then finally 20 inches. So I'm sure we can find a height that's comfortable for everybody. There's also various ways you can get on top of this box. The idea is you're going to travel the distance of the box, so it's going to be 20 inches. The most efficient way and the fastest way, the way to generate the most power, is obviously jumping, which will look something like this. You're going to stand maybe a foot distance away from the box, and you can use your arms. You want to gain a little bit of momentum here. So just down, landing on top of the box, and stand tall. Okay, that's just obviously a standard jump. When you land on top of this box, you have to demonstrate some control. So most of, if not all of your foot should land on top of the box. Land soft, knees travel outside your feet. Nice soft position here. And then if you're comfortable, you can jump back down, or you can step down as well. Okay. You can also do step ups, stand tall, and step down. Okay. As the workout progresses and you feel you're getting a little bit fatigued, you can also plant your foot here, both hands on one knee, drive yourself up again, and then same thing down if you want to rotate or just, obviously rotate your feet. As far as cycling these, if you're a veteran of this workout, if you've done this workout a lot, you've seen a lot of people, what they'll do is actually cycle their box jumps actually relatively quickly. And how they do that is, what they do is they'll land on the box, and then they'll actually launch themselves off, back down, and load themselves up again. So it looks something like this. Okay, you can obviously rotate and rep out a lot of box jumps within that minute. So this exercise, the box jumps, as well as the push press, are two exercises that if you're a veteran in this workout, you can actually potentially get a lot of repetitions. Okay, the next move we're going to talk about is called the push press. And basically what a push press is, it's similar to a shoulder press, but what I like to describe it is like a shoulder press with a cheat. Okay, because we're going to use a little bit of our lower body to get this weight moving. The standard weight for men is 75 pounds, and the standard weight for women is going to be 55 pounds. Just like everything else I described earlier, everything is scalable. The only thing that's not scalable on this particular exercise is the distance the bar has to travel. You're going to have to move the bar from your shoulders to overhead and full lockout of the arms. So I'll give you an idea of what that looks like. A standard grip for this is going to be hands just outside the shoulders, okay? And some people like to go a little bit more narrow, and some people like to go a little bit wider. Just keep in mind, the more narrow your hands are, the longer you're going to eventually have to push that bar. So not that it's a cheat, but the wider you go, if you're comfortable with that, the distance that the bar has to travel just a slightly less. So we're going to start this movement from the rack. Bar starts on your clavicle. If you can get your elbows through, you can create a little shelf with your shoulders. The push press movement actually starts with a dip of your knees. You're keeping your torso upright, just a little bit of a dip, and then pop it up and press it up overhead. Okay? Back down and up. As you lower the weight, let it push you back down to that little 3/4 squat, and jumping the weight up overhead. This is a dynamic move, so you're actually using your lower body to jump this weight up. In a row. And as we get locked out overhead, we should be able to get our head through just a little bit so we can see a little bit of ear. Okay? Back down. Some of the movement standards that we look for in this exercise are full lockout overhead, and it's an actual push press. So we have to start with a squat,
jump, and finish with a press. What we can't do is start with a jump, start with a press, and then dip back down and finish. That would be considered a jerk, and that would be considered a no rep. So obviously the distance the bar has to travel is standard for everybody, but we can scale weight on this exercise. Okay, so the last exercise we're going to talk about is the row, which is a very, very standard exercise. Hopefully everybody's had some exposure to rowing. I'll give you a few just tips and pointers on rowing technique, but obviously there's no scaling options on this. You're either going to row faster or you're going to row slower. So this exercise strategically isn't a high point getter. You may start on the row, you may finish on the row, but the points you get here aren't going to necessarily translate to how many you can potentially get elsewhere. If you're new to rowing, what you want to first consider is foot position. These straps and these foot plates are adjustable. You want to adjust it to where when your heel is in the heel cup, the strap's going right across the top of your foot, and it's lined up right on the very bony part, the big fat little bony part next to your big toe. You want to strap these in so your feet are nice and snug, so your feet don't come off the pads. This row in particular has the wider grip handles, which is helpful. The starting row position starts knees bent, arms are going to be completely straight. Rowing is largely a lower body followed by an upper body movement. So we start by driving the legs, and then just before our legs reach full extension, we start pulling the bar or the handle into just our abdomen. Okay, we finish, hands past the knees, then we load up again, legs and arms. Nice fluid motion, driving with our feet, finishing with our arms. Don't reload until after our hands pass our knees, and then load up again. Okay, and obviously the harder you pull, the more calories you'll get, and you'll feel a little bit more tension on the chain, the more pop you get off the bottom. Okay, keeping the chest upright, don't slouch over, keep everything nice and locked in. Simple enough. If you're new to rowing or you've never rowed before, this would be something worth practicing during the 8 weeks just to get your technique a little bit more fluid, because in this particular exercise, if you're more efficient on the rowing, you're going to do better off during the calories for that minute that you're on.